The night everything changed began with a knock so sudden and desperate that it echoed through the thin walls of my tiny apartment like a warning. I had been sitting alone at the small kitchen table, staring at the flickering light above the sink, wondering how life had somehow shrunk into this quiet, lonely routine. Then came the knock again, harder this time, urgent, almost panicked. I remember feeling my chest tighten as I walked toward the door, because something in that knock told me the quiet life I'd been hiding in was about to disappear forever. Before we begin, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the idea that even the smallest acts of compassion can change someone's life, please take a moment to like this video, comment where you're watching from, share it with someone who believes in humanity, and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this. When I opened the door, the cold autumn air rushed into my apartment, carrying with it the faint smell of rain and city pavement. Standing in the dim hallway light was Rachel, someone I hadn't seen in almost 3 years. Her hair was damp, strands clinging to her face, and her tired eyes looked like they hadn't slept in days. But what shocked me most was that she wasn't alone. A small girl stood beside her, clutching a worn-out backpack like it was the most important thing in the world. Before I could even process the situation, Rachel stepped inside quickly, glancing nervously down the hallway as if she were afraid someone might be watching. Then she said the sentence that made my apartment suddenly feel half its size. She took a breath and quietly announced, "We're both staying here with you." For a few seconds, I simply stared at her, unsure if I had heard correctly. My apartment was barely big enough for one person. It was a small one-bedroom place in Cleveland, Ohio. The kind of apartment you rent when life hasn't exactly gone according to plan. The living room doubled as a workspace, the kitchen was barely larger than a closet, and the bedroom had just enough space for a single bed and a nightstand. Now suddenly, there were 3 of us standing in it. Rachel looked exhausted in a way that went deeper than physical fatigue. It was the look of someone who had been fighting battles alone for far too long. The little girl beside her kept staring at the floor, her fingers gripping the straps of her backpack. I asked Rachel what was going on, but she didn't answer right away. Instead, she slowly sat down on the couch like her legs had finally given up holding her weight. The girl sat beside her, still silent. That's when Rachel finally told me the truth. Her name was Maya, and she was Rachel's daughter. I felt my heart skip. 3 years ago, Rachel and I had been close, closer than friends, but never officially anything more. Life had pulled us in different directions after a painful misunderstanding and a series of bad choices. One day she was simply gone, leaving nothing behind but unanswered messages and memories that took years to stop hurting. And now she was back, with a child. Rachel explained slowly that after leaving Cleveland, she had moved to Phoenix, Arizona with someone she thought loved her. That relationship turned out to be a mistake she would spend years trying to escape. The man she trusted slowly became controlling, angry, and eventually dangerous. When Maya was born, Rachel realized she couldn't raise a child in that environment. But leaving wasn't easy. It took months of planning and quiet courage before Rachel finally packed a bag, took Maya, and ran. They had driven across states with barely enough money for gas, sleeping in the car a few nights along the way. The only place Rachel could think of, the only person she trusted enough to ask for help, was me. The problem was I barely had my own life together. I worked long shifts at a warehouse outside the city, my savings were thin, my apartment was small, and yet when I looked at Maya, sitting quietly beside her mother with those tired but hopeful eyes, something inside me refused to say no. That night, we rearranged the apartment like it was some kind of puzzle. I gave Rachel the bedroom and moved my mattress into the living room. Maya slept curled up next to her mother like she had been waiting for safety her entire life. And just like that, my quiet life disappeared. The first few weeks were difficult. Space was tight, money was tight, privacy didn't exist anymore. Some mornings I woke up to the sound of cartoons playing softly in the living room, while Rachel tried to cook breakfast in the tiny kitchen. But something unexpected also began to happen. The apartment didn't feel lonely anymore. Maya was a quiet child at first, shy around me, but slowly she started warming up. She would sit at the table while I fixed small things around the apartment, asking curious questions about everything. She laughed easily, the kind of laugh that fills a room and makes the walls feel wider. Rachel started working part-time at a small diner downtown while I kept my warehouse job. Our schedules overlapped just enough to make things work. Still, the past had a way of creeping back in. Rachel carried a weight of guilt for bringing trouble into my life. Sometimes I would find her sitting alone by the window late at night, staring out at the streetlights like she was waiting for something bad to happen. And in truth, we both knew that the man she escaped from might eventually try to find her. Then one evening, everything nearly fell apart. I came home from work and found Rachel sitting on the couch with tears in her eyes. Maya was asleep beside her. Rachel told me she had received a message earlier that day. The man she left had been asking people in Phoenix if anyone knew where she had gone. Fear returned to the apartment like a storm cloud. For the first time since Rachel arrived, I saw the full depth of her worry. She didn't want to bring danger to my door. She even suggested leaving. But something in me refused to let that happen. For years, I had lived a life that felt small, quiet, and meaningless. I had avoided responsibility, avoided risks, avoided anything that might break my heart again. Yet somehow this tiny apartment had turned into something bigger than I ever expected. It had become a home. I told Rachel she wasn't leaving. We would figure things out together. Over the next few months, life slowly stabilized. Rachel saved money from the diner and eventually found a better job at a medical office. Maya started attending a nearby elementary school and quickly made friends. The apartment was still small, but the laughter inside it made it feel like the biggest place in the world. Sometimes, late at night, Rachel and I would sit on the fire escape outside the building talking quietly about the past. The anger and misunderstandings that once separated us slowly faded, replaced by something gentler, something stronger. Then one evening, Maya changed everything with a single innocent question. She looked at both of us and asked if we were a family. Rachel and I exchanged a long glance. Neither of us had planned for that moment. Life had simply carried us there step by step. And in that moment, we both realized the truth. Some families are not built the way people expect. They grow slowly in unexpected places. They form in small apartments filled with second chances. Before the story ends, I have a special request for you. Please comment the word home if you believe that family is something we build with love, not just something we're born into. A year later, life looked completely different. Rachel and Maya still lived in the apartment, but it didn't feel temporary anymore. We had turned the living room into a shared space filled with books, drawings, and small pieces of happiness Maya insisted on decorating the walls with. I had taken a promotion at work. Rachel was thriving at her new job. And most importantly, the fear that once followed her slowly disappeared. One quiet evening, while watching Maya sleep on the couch after a long day at school, Rachel whispered something I'll never forget. She said she didn't know if knocking on my door that night had saved her life, but she knew it had saved her hope. My apartment was still small, but the life inside it had become bigger than I ever imagined. And sometimes the moment that feels like your world is shrinking is actually the moment your heart is growing large enough to hold the people who need you most. If this story touched your heart, please like the video, share it with someone who believes in kindness and second chances, and subscribe to the channel so more people can hear stories like this. Because sometimes the smallest homes hold the biggest miracles.